Awesome. Alan, so man, we both are, well, you're still in the CCA right now, right?
I sure am. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Only
so
about
I
probably halfway through.
okay, man, so you're getting into the meat of the certainty operating system.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And this is the Investor Frame podcast. So let's talk about the investor frame. What is that? Isn't, do you've covered that frame already?
We talked about it last 2 weeks ago. So why don't you refresh my memory and then we'll talk through it.
Yep. So the investor frame basically asks the question, knowing what I know now, would I choose to opt into this current situation? You can apply that to business. You could apply that to, knowing what I know now about this employee, would I hire them again? Right. Another way of saying this is like, hey, if I gave you $1 million for your business right now, would you buy your business back with it? Same thing with rental properties, right? Like knowing what you know now, would you choose to buy that same project, that same property, right? This is how I understand the investor frame.
Yeah. Knowing what you know now, would you still marry your wife?
Yeah. Yep.
Probably don't want to say that one.
Well, I would. I certainly would, but I don't know if everyone would. They need to adopt the investor frame.
I think that the biggest thing for me is it's that recommitment that's so important because, I've been investing for a long time in a lot of different spaces. And, like you make certain decisions based on the data that you have at the time. And you hope those were the best decisions at the time, but data is constantly evolving, and my own life situation is constantly evolving. So I think having that wording, what's the right way, having the right vocabulary to say, hey, hold on a second, like, is this still what I think it is? Because in my mind, we assign a ton of like emotional value to these investing decisions. Whether it's like real estate, whether it's crypto, whether it's stocks, doesn't really matter. But if we have all this emotional tie-in to like, I'm a success because I made that decision, you're never going to actually opt out of it, right? But if you're able to just say like, hold on, let's look at it like subjectively, is this still the right investment for me? Is this still the right position? That's powerful, because I think in maybe like professional hedge fund managers think that way, but most of us in everyday life don't think that way. And so it's a real good thought exercise.
It's a version of loss aversion,
right?
Like we make a decision, and then later we realize like, I kind of wish I hadn't made that decision.
Yeah.
But like, we have loss aversion. We don't want to potentially admit that we made a bad idea. Maybe it's going to take too much effort to get rid of that employee to hire somebody else. So like, let's just leave them there. So what happens is we end up maintaining all these convenience assets. It's just easier to not do anything about it. But it's like, but if by choosing to stay in that investment or in that decision, it's the same thing as opting into it again.
I think that it's also we've made this decision a part of our identity.
Yeah.
And that loss aversion is really about loss of identity in a sense, right? Sure. Because like you're saying like, oh, I had this happen with an employee that I had, I should have let him go months before I actually did it. But it was like, oh, I made the choice to bring him in. He was working out, but he hasn't been for this time. So if I say like there's a problem, then it's like, I was the one that decided to hire him. Yeah. So, and I think that that's probably the biggest thing that a lot of us overlook is it's really, I mean, it's so easy to look at a spreadsheet and say yes, no. But the reality is like, if we've tied our identity into like the decision we made, then we don't want to go against it, because it means we're saying we made a mistake, and most of us never want to say that we made a mistake, right? Yeah. Even if like we say, oh yeah, I admit to my mistake, but like deep down inside your heart and your head, like we don't want to say that we made bad choices. So the shift that I got from the last call that I had when it came to this topic was really like, oh, I am the creator of new ideas. I'm not all of the ideas I've ever had.
That's really good.
So just to position myself to say, like, I take advantage of opportunity where I find it. And when the opportunity is no longer there, I let go of it. And that's my identity versus I'm someone that owns this many rentals or owns this much crypto. It's more just about I'm the maker of the choices, not the identity that I am is not my choices.
Well, you are using the investor frame with your own real estate business, aren't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I want to understand how to leverage my portfolio in a way that gets better asset return for me and for other people through crypto, right? Like that's really the biggest thing that I'm trying to focus on. It's like, okay, so I own all of these rentals, but the reality is, like, I don't really need to, like, I don't need to think of it in those terms. I can open up my portfolio and let people participate in it and take some of the cash flow in exchange for, like, my idea is, like, I can raise money to pay off all the debt, and then the cash flow just goes through the roof. Because I make probably close to 20 grand a month in cash flow, but my mortgage payments are probably 18 grand. Right. So I'm making about 2 grand a month, but that's nothing spectacular. But if I think about it in terms of, well, would I do this investment? Well, if I could get my passive if I could get that income up to like 10,000 a month, that starts getting really interesting. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And how could I do that? And how can I have other people support me and also have them benefit from it?
Yeah. Well, and the application of the investor frame was basically just saying, like, knowing what I know now, we found a better path forward, a better, more efficient path forward. And because we don't tie our identity to our decisions, I should say to the decisions that were made, as you were saying, right? We tie our identity to our ability to make good decisions, right? And as more data, as we learn more and new information is presented, we have to constantly apply this investor frame, saying, knowing what I know now, would I choose to opt into this situation? Because by staying in it, we're basically making the same decision as to opt into it.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. How have you applied this in your life, Paul?
Through looking at my business and saying, let's take my active real estate business, for example. We've both become aware of the massive opportunity in the crypto market, right?
Yep.
And instead of saying, when I looked at my business, it was taking up a lot of time, a lot of energy, right? It's hard to buy and sell. Even we're buying about 3 or 4 houses a month at the moment, right? It's nothing compared to some of the folks in CG, but it's a lot for a new business owner, and it takes up a lot of time and energy. And so I said to myself, like, would I choose to do this again? And the answer was no, right? So I didn't just drop my entire business. What I did is I said, okay, well, what would I need to do? What would I need to change about the business in order to say, yes, I do want to keep that business, right? So what did I do? We pared the team down. We cut out a lot of the overhead, let's just call it, right? Doing all this marketing, all this type of outbound, marketing, I guess. And we shifted more towards a relationship style business. Why? Because that's a business I want, right? I enjoy relationships. What I get value out of is the relationship part of the business. And so I shifted my business away from a transactional business to a relationship business by using the investor frame.
Yep. Yeah. It makes perfect sense.
So, well, cool. Keep reporting back, because I know you're probably just deep right in the heart of it, going through these frames and the growth principles and all that sort of stuff. So thanks for sharing on the investor frame, and we'll see you next time.